everyone can be cheersing a different one every single time.
Excellent. I like it.
Excellent.
All right. We're live.
Yes, we are.
Well, good day. My name is Chris Beckman, and I'm the corporate chaplain for Ebenezer, which sounds like a high, holy title. Usually I say you can call me your lordship or king, but today it's just Chris. And we're in the midst of COVID-19, and we're dealing with lots and lots of medical information on a daily basis. And unfortunately, most of us are overloaded. And so to bring a little more lighthearted and yet serious and interesting thing, we're going to be interviewing caregivers and trying to understand a little bit more about how they tick. And my first guest today on this very first program is Luke. And Luke, I'm going to that he is here not under any duress. And we haven't offered you any gifts or any incentive. You're not getting any early prison release by being
nothing on this earth have I been given.
Excellent. Well, why don't you tell us who you are, Luke, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Luke Jenkins. I'm one of the marketing consultants here at the home office. Been in senior care ever since my grandma told me to be, and have really just enjoyed it thoroughly. And that's just a very brief summary of who I am. So just glad to be here to talk with Chaplain Chris.
So that's really our first question, and kind of the point of this is, why are you a caregiver? And we could do any other kinds of jobs, and especially Luke, who's in sales and marketing, probably could have done many different things. But apparently his grandma told him to do this. So say a little bit more about that. What did grandma have to say?
So I grew up next to my grandparents. It was a very small town in rural Iowa. My grandparents lived next door. My aunt lived next door. Very, very close-knit community. My grandpa, on a regular basis, he was a bluegrass musician and did a lot of barn dances. Nice. And so I learned a lot of my charisma through my grandfather and a lot of my love through my grandma. And I called my grandma on her birthday. This was after college and just reeling about what should I do with my life. And my grandma's like, do this. And so I did. And it's just
How old were you?
I was 23-ish. Oh. And so
an emerging adult.
Yes. And one of these days I will be a full-fledged adult. Just fingers crossed that it happens soon. And so that's just a little bit about where I came from and why I do what I do. It's definitely for my grandparents, but probably in a little bit of a different way.
So when you were in kindergarten or first grade, did you want to be in long-term care? When you were asked the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you remember what you answered? And was it, I want to be working long-term care for Ebenezer?
I either wanted to be a magician or an engineer. But when I thought that I was going to be an engineer, I thought it had to do stuff with trains. And then they told me that it had to do with math, and I quickly jumped off ship.
Nice. And do you bring any of those skills with you today?
The
magical.
I try and do a little sleight of hand from time to time, but as far as the math part of things, I leave that to our lovely friends in accounting. I try and stay far away from numbers as much as possible.
So why is Luke kissing up to the accounting department? Is he beholden to them financially, or has he made any risky investments that he has to deal with?
I've just found that the less I irritate people intentionally, the more forgiving they are when I am unintentionally irritating.
So one of the things about working in our world is there are sometimes really funny things that happen to us. Can you think of anything that you found really humorous in your work in long-term care, and maybe even here with Ebenezer?
As far as appropriate conversations would go for the masses, I think one of my favorite ones is there was a gal in memory care that was just one of my favorite people. She could be so incredibly sweet or incredibly vicious, dependent upon her mood. And I was Santa Claus a couple years, every year, one after another. And I remember the first year I was Santa Claus, I went in and I was like, oh, Merry Christmas. And she just came running up to me. She was so excited, and it just filled my cup. And I was so full of joy. And so the next year I waited and I talked to everyone else except this one particular person because, I was so excited to talk with her. And so I'm reeling up, I'm sweating profusely because anyone that's ever worn a Santa suit, it's pretty hot under there. And I go up to her and I'm said, "Merry Christmas." And she said, "Get away from me, you jerk." And there were a couple expletives that were added that I will not add for the sake of the video and for the sake of our chaplain's sensitive ears. But it was just quite not what I was expecting. The other people that were within earshot had a good chuckle about it. I had a good chuckle after my pride recovered. And so I would say that's still one of my favorite moments. So many people that are just absolutely fantastic. I could tell lots of different stories.
So is it true that working here with Ebenezer, we often get invited into other roles and other opportunities
here? I can't tell you how many people, even here, at the home office, have started as nursing assistants or dietary aides. And Ebenezer is so good at developing people and giving them the skills and the resources to build themselves up so that they can be leaders, so that they can continue to have purpose, and so that they too can be a stone of help.
Sounds like a true marketer. So the real question, besides wondering whether you actually dry clean the Santa suit or anyone else that must wear it afterwards, but one of the fun things is a lot of us have done a lot of jobs before we got here. And I wonder, Luke, if you've done other jobs and if you pinpointed the one that...
So I guess the most unusual job I had is I did a part-time gig as a murder mystery theater actor right here in Minneapolis.
Paid?
A little bit, just a little bit paid. They quipped and called it grim prov because somebody had always died in the murder mystery. But I would say that's the most unique. But being from rural Iowa, definitely the worst job ever is detasseling corn. If anyone's ever had the unfortunate opportunity of doing that, you wake up really early in the middle of summer, you go out into a cornfield and you just basically pluck the tops off. And if you've never traipsed through a cornfield, those leaves are like paper. And by the end of the day, your arms and legs and any other exposed skin is just cut to shreds. And so I would say that was probably one of the most terrible jobs that I've had. Both days I did it. It was very unfortunate.
Reminds me of the summer I ran a jackhammer, which was really fun for about a day and a half. And after that, it really convinced me that going to college was probably not such a bad idea if I wanted to survive into adulthood. So clearly, one of the reasons we're doing this interviewing is because humor is a really good self-care for us in this time. And one of the reasons that I think we want to do these podcasts, or whatever we're going to call them, is to help people realize things that we can do to take care of ourselves. And most of us have good intentions and even good ideas of what works, but sometimes we don't. We often have hard time finding time or the energy. So what do you do for self-care and how does it work?
Self-care. I would say I really enjoy my faith. And so I just enjoy meeting up with my church buddies on a regular basis and just kind of checking in with them, challenging each other to be better men for our families, for the places that we work, and just for ourselves too. So I would say that's probably what I do for self-care. Also, eating gratuitous amounts of meat is some self-care for myself as well.
So go to chow is kind of the place to go for you.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, do you want to go tomorrow?
Do we have marketing budget money for that?
It's not open.
Oh.
because of the whole, COVID-19
I
thing.
noticed you didn't mention exercise as one of those. As one of those, can you say you seem like a guy that's exercising? And
I have once or twice, but I just chase around a 2-year-old, and that's exercise enough.
And have you had any altercations or things that have happened?
Well, Chris knows because I told him this earlier.
Excellent.
But so
beware of what you tell the chaplain.
So something interesting. For the past 5 years, every single time that I've gone to the gym, I've gotten into a car accident, and so I've just taken it as an omen to not go to the gym.
Excellent. I think that's the only time I've heard that solid rationale for not exercising. We're almost at the end of our time here, and this has been a wonderful first session, and I hope you find this enjoyable. I'm wondering if Luke has any last words that he'd like to share of encouragement or wisdom or just even goodbye.
I guess I just want to say thank you to all of our direct caregivers, all of those individuals that make a difference to all of our residents. I have so much respect for what you do, and thank you. Just a genuine thank you. I don't have anything funny or smart to say. I just think you all are awesome. I respect you, and I thank you.
Here. We all support everyone during this time, and with our laughter and with our joy, with our struggles and our solidarity with each other. Thanks again. Bye now.
Bye.